This is Up to Date on KCUR 89.3. I'm Steve Kraske. Under President Trump's executive orders, steps are being taken to detain and deport people in this country without legal status. The acting Deputy Attorney General directed state and local law enforcement to comply with immigration enforcement efforts or face prosecution. Today we'll find out how governors and Kansas City area police departments are responding to the directive and if states are required to cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement operations. Joining us now is Holly Edgell. She's the managing editor of NPR's Midwest Newsroom. Holly, thanks for taking some time. Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, President Trump signed this rash of immigration orders on Election Day. One of those orders allows immigration and customs enforcement to delegate duties to local law enforcement agencies. I'm wondering, are state and local law enforcement agencies required to support raid and deportation efforts by federal ICE agents?
Well, that is a good question. The Department of Justice believes the answer is yes. Experts we talked to and at least a dozen state attorneys general say no. So it's going to be an interesting point to see what happens. On Tuesday, the Justice Department sent out a memo to its employees saying that local and state law enforcement is required by the Constitution to comply with directives from the White House around immigration enforcement, which would include ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Close on the heels of that came a memo or press release from 12 attorneys general from a variety of states saying the opposite, that the Constitution does not require it and is actually unconstitutional to force local law enforcement to do that. So it's contradictory. An expert I spoke to agreed with the state attorneys general that the U.S. government on the federal level cannot force local law enforcement to undertake immigration enforcement.
But to be crystal clear here, Holly, you're saying that the Trump administration has threatened local law enforcement officials if they don't come forward and cooperate with federal agents, that there's a chance they'll be thrown in jail.
Yeah, they say that explicitly in this memo. If convicted, could send them to prison. So that is pretty strong stuff. As with many things, with a lot of these orders that have come out of the White House, there's going to be a lot of legal wrangling back and forth. There will be legal pushback, lawsuits, and a lot of discussion and disagreement over what is really the law of the land.
So to be clear, attorneys general from 11 states have signed this statement.
12 states.
12 states, okay, pointing to a long-standing precedent between federal and state agencies. Tell us a little more about what you know about that.
So this press release came out in a form of a press release authored by the Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul, and basically he's saying it's a long-standing Supreme Court precedent that the U.S. Constitution prevents the federal government from commandeering states to enforce federal laws. That's a direct quote. Now, the federal government may use its own resources for federal immigration enforcement. The court has ruled that. But it is not within the purview nor the requirements for local law enforcement to comply. And so this is where the discrepancy is, and is a pretty huge discrepancy. What is the law? And this may be very well be something that ends up again before the courts.
Okay, so the Midwest Newsroom focuses on 4 Midwestern states. They're Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. How have the governors of those states responded to President Trump's efforts to begin mass deportations?
Even before Trump came to the White House, the governors of Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri were all very supportive of any immigration policy enforcement that was going underway. In fact, you may be aware of the Texas Operation Lone Star. They all sent their National Guard troops to the border to assist in that. And subsequently, for example, Governor Reynolds of Iowa has put law enforcement in that state on notice that they will be required to support ICE and other federal actions around immigration. Governor Mike Kehoe, the new governor of Missouri, has already signed into law some orders about how local and state law enforcement can ask and question people about their immigration status. And also, we know from past statements that the governors of those three states are planning to be supportive. I have not heard anything from Kansas. We know that Kansas has a Democrat in the governor's seat, and she has not said anything as far as I know.
So the Midwest Newsroom then reached out to local agencies in those four states to find out how they're going to respond to the administration. What did you find out? What are local agencies going to do here?
Well, it was really interesting. We reached out to about 35 agencies, mostly police departments, some sheriff's departments in all four states. A lot of people got back to us right away. Some we're still waiting on, and we'll update our article as we get those. The vast majority said they are not in the business of rounding up people without legal status on behalf of ICE or any other federal entity. They said it in a variety of ways. A couple of people are on a wait and see. They said they're waiting to see what would happen in terms of their response, in particular, Boone County, Missouri, and the city of St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. They are sort of waiting to see. But for example, the Greene County Sheriff's Office was very much ready to assist and support. And Springfield, which is in Greene County, said they are not. So it was really interesting to see how that's going to play out. But I think that you may see more inclination on the part of the counties to support this work by either helping arrest and certainly detaining in jails people who are arrested. That's a very early observation because most of the people who have responded so far have represented police departments as opposed to sheriff's departments.
I'm curious if you spoke with the Kansas City Police Department.
Sure. My colleague Peggy Lowe there at KCUR reached out, and they said they will not be participating in these immigration actions. And we don't know much more than that. We're hoping they may elaborate at some point soon.
Does that put the KCPD at odds with the new governor in Missouri, Mike Kehoe?
It could very well do so. I think this will be tested soon. You know, it's the reason we did this project and this story is because we know that these actions will play out on the local level. This is a national story, but this is happening in our neighborhoods, our communities, our cities. And so when the rubber hits the road, so to speak, we will see how cities feel about going toe to toe with what the federal government is demanding of them. The mayor of Chicago came out early, quite unequivocal, about the very strong stance that city is taking in this regard against supporting any of these immigration enforcement efforts. So we really wanted to ask and get on the record these police departments and sheriff's offices about what their stance is.
What did you hear from Kansas agencies?
So far we have heard from Wichita, Topeka, and Olathe. They all say they are not planning to actively support these efforts. I believe it was Wichita that sort of came out the strongest there, saying this is not their job and they are not participating.
Okay, that's Holly Edgell. She's the managing editor of NPR's Midwest Newsroom. You can see the results of their work at kcur.org. Holly, thanks so much for your time. Much appreciated.
You're welcome. Take care.
Okay, take care.